Turner is a large company. We do $14 billion, billion with a B, each
Been in
year.
Darwin since 15.
Okay, well, 14, 15, you know. I work in a division that is a part of the company that specializes in sports facilities. Some of the projects that we've done, we did Yankee Stadium, the new Yankee Stadium. We did half of the NFL stadiums in the last 20 years. Panthers, Bears, 49ers, Bengals, Seahawks. A number of exciting projects. We renovated Madison Square Garden, a $1 billion job. We're currently building the LA Rams and the Chargers Stadium in Los Angeles, which is a $3.5 billion project. And I wish I had a day to just tell you all the exciting things we're doing out there. What I'd like to talk about a little bit is some of the similarities between the experiences that you all have from your military life and how that might translate into a career in the construction industry. Even though there's different venues, I mean, I've never been in combat, but I can only imagine all the things that go wrong there, right? The windstorms come in, the supplies don't show up, the enemy's in a different position and all that. Well, that kind of translates to what goes on the construction site. It's raining, the supplies don't show up, the truck's stuck with traffic, the concrete in the concrete mixing truck doesn't pass inspection. You've got 40 guys on deck, you need to do something quickly. So there's a lot of thinking on your feet. There's a lot of, I need a plan B, C, D, E, and sometimes all four of those don't work. I was running a job in Florida, and particularly bad day. It was very windy, and we were spray painting steel. And the next day, guy shows up in my office with his BMW covered with paint. Bad day. So we were able to work through that, but that was just an example of, we got to do something different. We got to paint upwind or downwind, or make sure we're doing something different. We're going to use screening. We're going to get the job done. So there's a lot of creative thinking, a lot of how can we do this better? What's not working? Leadership qualities, very important. When your subcontractor is not performing, you have to find, there's no yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am. It's the guy just walks away from you and says, I ain't doing it that way. Well, you got to work with this guy.
They're usually not that nice, Tom.
What's that?
They're usually not that nice.
No.
They had a couple of four-letter words first.
Yes, and what they say about my mother was not true. So anyway, so leadership, and it's a little bit different style, I would imagine, than what you have in the military. But nonetheless, it's getting people to. It's more of a consensus building. You have to get people together in one room, get everybody's ideas on the table, respect everybody's opinion, make all that come together in a plan, and then expect that the plan's going to change. So all those things are, and also people talked about resilience. That's a great comment, and that translates very much into what we do. So let me give you a little idea, a bigger picture of kind of how everything is organized in construction. Basically, there's three parties. You have a person who has a need, someone who says, I need something done, and I have money, and I have land, and that's called the owner. And the owner goes out and says, I need somebody to take this need and create something that can be built, and that's the designer. And that's the architect and the engineer. And then the owner goes and then hires a builder, and that's where I come in. And there's other divisions in here. We give that $14 billion that we do every year in commercial. That's hospitals, it's airports, it's schools, it's everything, sports. And we have 2% of the market. So when you do the math on that, that's a $700 billion market every year in commercial construction in the United States. And that's not residential. That's so.
And you can't send it overseas.
And I would bet that it's safe to say it's over $1 trillion worth of work that's done in construction in this country every year. And it's done with people that live here and get paid here. It's not something you can outsource. So, so let me tell you what we have for positions, how we would be organized. We would have a field operation and an office. And in here we would have superintendents. These are the guys up at 5 o'clock in the morning on the job site at 6. Sometimes they're still there at 6 p.m. They're the guys out there, men and women who are managing the work. And what we're finding is that the workforce is aging in this country. And there's not a lot of kids interested in coming in and getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and being on the job site at 6 and working. So the workforce is diminishing as it gets older. So and part of that is a lack of management skill. So we find ourselves getting more involved with the subcontractors. So we're out there saying, that's not right, doing what the subcontractor used to do 20 years ago. They would have their own management systems out there. So we spend more time, so we have more people managing at a lower level with our subcontractors to make sure that quality, safety, schedule, and budget are all maintained. We also have what we call a field engineer. These are the people who go out and survey things, and they say these the columns go here, the ceiling should be this high, and all that. So so that's like a measurement, and it's a good place to start. So that's a field engineer. We also have safety people. We also have a new position. There's this thing called lean. I don't know if anybody's ever heard about it. It's doing things, it kind of comes from the Japanese car makers, and I think it's L-E-A-N. Thank you. And so it's a different way of thinking. It's a collaborative effort. They have these huddles every day. So you bring everybody in and who's doing what. The crane's going to be here today. Trucks are coming in here. Be careful with this. We saw something yesterday that wasn't safe. Correct it today. So this person here is kind of the next generation quality control person. So on the office side, we have these people called engineers, for lack of a better word.
E-N-G-I-N-E-E-R-S.
Okay, anyway.
I've never spelled anything right.
I'm not good at spelling, but anyway, but I are one. So, anyway, so the engineer is a paperwork person, and on the DC United project, which we're going to open in 4 weeks, half of the engineering staff are women, which 25 years ago there would have been none. And so they're the people who are looking 6 months ahead to make sure the material's on the job, that everything fits, that they're figuring out that part A and part B have to fit together. Engineers are out here, and then above all this we have what we call a project manager. And the project manager came up through all of these different positions to get to that spot, and that's the person who overviews the whole project and orchestrates everything that needs to get done. We also have a division that's separate from this called logistics. In the sports world, you get, as an aside, you get to meet a lot of interesting people. On Friday, I'm having lunch with Charles Mann from the Redskins, Hall of Famer. And he has a company where he does this. So he goes and buys generators, engineers them, and then assigns them through. And then the benefit of that to us is that we would get CBE and small business, minority business percentages. So that's, logistics does that, and estimators. Okay, on this side, it's what I do. It's what I count things every
Oh,
day.
you're making RPI look bad now.
I know.
Terrible.
I don't have to spell anything, but I can count stuff. So this is really the job staff. So back in the main office, we have estimators, which self-explanatory. They're the people who figure out what the things are cost, put the bids together, send all that in. We also have a purchasing group. And they're the guys who, and men and women who go out and know the subcontractor market and put together the proposals for people to bid to us. So, and typically we would subcontract 95% of the projects. So we were looking for specialists that come in and do the work with us.
And across the street, we were required to have 20% disabled veteran-owned businesses.
Yeah. And then there's another group over here that does the sales. And I'm the farthest thing from an entrepreneur that you could ever imagine. I've worked for Turner for 47 years. That's all I've ever done since I got out of school. So, and I'm an engineer, you know. So Bob, in 1983, we get an opportunity. We have an office in Arlington, in Ballston, and we get an opportunity to go after this sports job, a Coliseum, 25,000 seat Coliseum in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I said, Bob, what are you, crazy? I said, we've never done this before. I don't know the first thing. He says, that's all right, we're taking the hill, you know, we're jerking. So sure enough, we go down there and we beat a couple guys who had done this quite a bit. And
That was my story.
Yeah.
My story about Madison Square Garden.
Well, Bob actually worked on the original.
I was on the Madison Square Garden job picking up papers right out of the Marine Corps. But this guy asked a question about what are some of the difficult problems you run into building coliseums. And somehow in the back of my pea brain, I had this memory that we had to build a goddamn elevator in Madison Square Garden that could carry elephants. So we built an elevator for elephants. And I threw that story out and it sounded like I've been doing coliseums for my whole life. And Tom is almost rolling on the floor on the other side of the room laughing because he'd heard the story but he'd never heard it presented.
That's
In
right.
that case, and we ended up getting a job.
What I have done in the 35 years that I've been doing sports is I've collected an enormous amount of data. And I have the data in a data bank. I have 125 sports projects organized by football, arenas. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to go work on a steeplechase job we have out in Maryland. Looked at those projects and I've organized the numbers by systems. So foundations has $1 per square foot. Structure has $1 per square foot. So I can take those numbers and I have it all organized to move it in time and location. So I can take a job 20 years ago in Des Moines, Iowa, and move it to Texas for a 2019 start, and all the numbers change by just changing 2 cells. The other thing you need is to have like a feel for this. You know, you kind of look at something and you can say, well, this is similar to what we did in at the University of Texas. We did a job and it was similar, so I'm going to take some of those numbers from there and I'm going to put them into here. And so it comes with a lot of to be successful in the construction industry is not so much an engineering degree, but you know, can-do attitude. You need to be disciplined. You need to be able to, as I said before, can't say enough, be able to change directions quickly to get things done, and just
Common sense.
common sense. And we have an expression, whatever it takes.